too much hard right approach. La Laine.
Splash, and a rounding circle of water that makes a small sound like a baby in its bath. Blanc, bigger fish, another blanc, which sounds even larger and closer. I wonder what those fish eyes think when they jump out of the water and observe Homo sapiens observing them.
What indeed? Well, actually, that's Liz Taylor, writing in Woman magazine, just one of last week's batch of popular publications aimed at the ladies. Liz was explaining why she had married that man again. And this passage referred to the dynamic duo's second-time round nuptials, which they had planned should take place in
Chobe, in Botswana, Africa, the gut earth, back to where it all began, the place of real beauty, the place of peace. That's where I would like us to be mated again, in the bush, amongst our kind.
Yes, I thought it was an odd choice too. The Miss Taylor that was, had only one kaftan and 2 long dresses with her.
One long dress seemed right in every sense but one. It is lightweight and cool and very simple in design, but unfortunately snow white.
Yes, well, does it matter, Liz? How many brides are that scrupulous? If they were, the white wedding trade would go broke and there would be no need for
wedding day.
And first home.
Britain's only bridal monthly to declare.
Soft little somethings.
With all the feminine, lovely, fluid clothes you'll be wearing on your honeymoon, not to mention the dress of dresses that will take you drifting up the aisle to meet your loved one, you'll want only the softest, thinnest little somethings to wear under them. The wrong underpinnings can ruin the whole line. You just want a second skin that skims smoothly over your birth one, and then lets everything else skim gracefully over it, too.
And of course, if while on honeymoon you should get run over crossing the Esplanade Wigan, you have absolutely nothing to worry about. It's all clean to be seen and fit to be worn. Yes, girls, wedding day confirms all your worst fears about the big event. It even has a section on
how to feel good in bed.
Every bride has nature's precious gift, a body her husband is in love with. Nudity is natural, and so are nature's smells. But that doesn't mean you should forget to pamper and caress each and every tiny part.
You never know, it could improve given time. For those so besotted that they have forgotten which tiny part is which, a handy guide is included, showing a young lady marked off in sections, rather like one of those wall charts in a butcher's shop.
Hands can express your love for him. Hands white and soft, tipped with gleaming, unbitten nails. Let him see love in your pretty eyes, framed by lashes and brows that have been dyed to keep their colour.
And so on. So confident of the buoyancy of the market are the perpetrators of Wedding Day, Socio Magazines Limited, that last week they launched another effort, this time aimed at little leaguers. It's called
Getting Engaged.
The magazine for young lovers.
The great new monthly for people in love.
Our Getting Engaged readers come from different walks of life and different parts of the country, but you all have one thing in common. You are head over heels in love, and it's a nice feeling, isn't it?
Is this really what the woman in the Clapham maternity ward is reading? Probably yes, that or something like it. But does she take it seriously? Or is all she wants a bit of a read between feeds? Does she object to being patronised, pigeonholed, talked down to, and generally addressed in terms that 99% of all known household germs would find insulting? Or is it all just the emotionally reassuring shorthand of escapism? The popularity, for instance, of True Romance or True Confession magazines shows no sign of diminishing, if the number on sale in newsagents and bookstalls is anything to go by. The rules haven't changed very much over the years. The stories are always in the first person, and the colour of everybody's hair is generally made clear in the first couple of paragraphs. My story this month had a couple of beauties.
She came between us. There was something wrong with the girl. She looked pale and agitated. When I pushed the coffee cup towards her, she nearly jumped out of her skin. "Anything to eat?" I asked in my kindest voice. She shook her head, and her long fair hair fell over her face.
I knew I could die when I made my decision, but for my husband Peter, I just had to give much more than love. Although I wanted to die, I knew I had to fight for Peter's sake. He sat by my bed, holding my hand pressed to his wet cheek, a lock of dark hair brushing his forehead. I must have looked awful, my fair hair tangled and damp, clinging in streaks to a colourless face. I knew Peter would think I looked awful.
You don't sound too good either. But if not much else has changed in the world of popular women's magazines, there has at least been one innovation, an agony column for men. Gone are the days when the letters page used to announce archly that they had a letter from a reader's husband. Invariably such letters would begin, as a mere male. Now all that has changed. On Mary Grant's problem page for men in Women's Own, a reader complains,
I'm saddened to see your pages used for the problems of male homosexuals. I find the activities of such persons offensive, and I'm sure many other readers do. Can't you confine yourself to the problems of women and of men interested in women?
Not you personally, of course, Mary. Your letters page. Mary soon gives this one short shrift.
Sorry if you've been offended, but every human activity under the sun offends someone. And it's the subjects that upset people most: divorce, contraception, abortion, and sex of all kinds, which cause worry and unhappiness for the many people who write for help. Since help for real people in real situation is what these pages are for, you must not expect to be always pleased by what you read.
Atta girl. Now, although Mary's heart is undoubtedly in the right place, someone else who can't have been best pleased was the gent who wrote to her some weeks back, revealing that
I'm an exhibitionist by nature, although my sex life is otherwise straight and I have a happy marriage. What I need is somewhere, a private club or a similar place, where I can take my clothes off in public and entertain women by doing so. Have you any suggestions?
Mary replies,
In spite of recent publicity, there's little opportunity for men to strip for an audience, but there isn't a fetish in the entire sexual armoury that can't be satisfied in an understanding personal relationship. And better there, in fact, than in the cold commercial world where the law may have something to say about it. So why not share your inclinations with your wife? Undressing in front of her could be entertaining enough for both of you.
especially if you buy your underwear at Millet's. Poor old soul, can't help feeling she's missed the point somehow. But if most popular women's magazines don't exactly extend their readers' horizons, they usually try not to offend the sensibilities. 19, however, seems to have committed the cardinal sin a couple of months back of printing a picture of a pin-up out of the age range acceptable to at least one of its readers. Very dodgy.
James Coburn
Just how tough is James Coburn, December?
was born in 1928, which makes him just short of 50 and more than old enough to be my father. Believe it or not, I'm not terribly interested in men of that age. Can we have more features on younger stars, please? D. Carter, Portsmouth.
Cheeky little madam. I think he's great. It must have been a nasty moment, though, and the editor's quick to reply, ever so humbly.
Editor.
At the back of that issue, you would have found an article on Timothy Bottoms, perhaps more to your liking. Anyway, point taken.
Phew. An exception to this rule is this month's issue at least, seems to be over 21, which blithely steps on toes all round. On its Yours Sincerely letters page, a reader points out, an article in an earlier issue about women's salaries.
I have just passed my 20th birthday and am earning £2,700 per annum, not as a qualified professional, but as a gas board clerk. This is in no way unusual, and girls of 17 or 18 are working in similar posts and are all into the £2,000 per annum bracket.
To which the reply was,
So that's why our gas and electricity bills keep rising.
or teach yourself economics. I wonder how much Ms. Yours Sincerely earns. If you want to express a really unpopular opinion, as opposed to an ill-considered one, this is perfectly acceptable, provided the piece is written by a man. Again in this month's Over 21, Harry Fieldhouse takes a rather more splenetic look at the traditional values versus new freedom argument.
The social problem of non-men.
That's us again, girls.
Can they have it both ways?
He asks. He starts off coyly, just another mere male.
What I want to know is, has women's lib won? A man can't tell what's expected of him anymore. Should he keep opening doors for girls, or will he be mocking their new independence?
Do not be deceived, gentle reader. Mr. Fieldhouse is indeed a veritable wolf in creep's clothing. What he really objects to, among other things, is the fact that despite all this so-called sexual equality, he's still having to pay for it.
All the girls I know tell me that they personally cherish the traditional courtesies of male to female. They assert that they love to be fussed over and have things carried for them, and that they themselves don't take this women's lib thing seriously at all. But how can a man be sure they're levelling? After all, somebody must be egging on Ms. Greer, Millet, Figgis and the rest. It's odd how processions of women can materialise, banners and all, in the cause of wages for wives or free nursery schools or whatever.
All the usual rubbish.
Yet these hordes never include any of the girls one actually knows. It does raise a suspicion, duplicity not being unknown among the female sex, that certain ornamental countenances noted for their serenity while I'm settling the bill may be hiding certain guilty secrets.
There probably always will be women who will cash in on their, quotes, new freedom while remaining sexually exploitative, and presumably men like Mr. Fieldhouse, doomed just as inexorably to be taken to the cleaners. But this does not alter his fundamental misunderstanding about what the women's rights movement is about, or the sheer general nastiness of the tone of the whole article. For example,
a caterwaul of abuse from indignant lady intellectuals greeted a recent ruling that the question of intent was exactly the same in rape cases as in any other crime. They want the rape laws rigged in favour of women plaintiffs. I back women's libbers to work up such a storm of grievance, if they play it right, that they'll make women into a problem social group like coloured immigrants.
who, Mr. Fieldhouse would seem to imply, are by definition always
Seeing slights on all sides and demanding compensating rights.
someone else who adopts the suspender belt and braces technique objected to by Mr. Fieldhouse is Caroline Coon, whose feature in this month's Cosmopolitan is entitled
Me and my fantasy man.
The man you love and live with is one thing, but what about the amazing man of your furthest fantasies? He may be the star of the Late Late film, a world leader stepping out of his jet, or the man who hogs the sports pages. He's unattainable, and that's part of the charm. In the first of a new series, Caroline Coon pins down her butterfly fantasies about the beautiful boxer, now film star hero.
That's right, old North and South himself, Muhammad Ali. It's a simple story, a sort of parable of the whore at a hockey match in reverse. Caroline starts off well enough, smoking cigars and sipping champagne in a chic knocking shop on ladies' night.
A madame in a little black Dior dress and string of pearls would be organising the evening for me.
Question, why a madame, why not a monsieur? In a little black Dior dress and string of pearls.
She would put her red-nailed manicured hand on the ornate brass knob of the salon door and push it silently open for the parade. One by one, men would present themselves, decked out in the guises they hope will turn me on. Leather trousers, ugh. Shaved legs, horrors.
Question, why? Women have them.
Savile Row suits, not tonight. American Air Force uniforms, not my bag. A 14-year-old nubile youth. I keep him in mind. But then, and this is the dream, the heroic fantasy I've come for, Muhammad Ali struts boldly across the thick carpet, glistening with sweat, breathing hard, bruised and triumphant, his boxing gloves slung around his neck.
If only he'd kept them on.
The dangerous champion is fresh from the boxing ring, high from applause, but passive. He's for sale, heavy trade, and I can afford him.
Fair enough, but then her cool deserts her. Suddenly she's acting like a teenager on a blind date, not the tough cookie-paying customer she started out as all.
But how do I keep him quiet?
Put a duvet in it?
Just say, don't talk? Well, you can imagine as I peel off my stockings how intrepidly I wonder if I'm going to manage it. I mean, has anyone ever been brazen enough to tell Muhammad Ali to keep his mouth shut and survive to tell the tale? Don't misunderstand me. I admire what Ali has to say about black oppression.
I mean, when is a chauvinist not a chauvinist? When he's a black racialist?
The indigo shadows in the hollow of his collarbones emphasize the powerful shaft of his neck.
No, she did say neck.
And his thighs will grip and twist.
Ooh, if I faint, leave the money on the mantelpiece. Caroline Coon, whoever, concludes sadly.
Muhammad Ali is hopelessly unavailable, untouchable, and out of reach, isn't he?
I hope for his sake he is, or as he might have put it himself.
If I go on that game, and it may be soon, I ain't messing around with no lady named Coon.
Good night.